We're spending 22 minutes today with Tony and Emmy winner Mandy Patinkin. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
We have a mix of, I think, Homeland and Broadway and every kind of Mandy fan here today. But you're here to talk about a new Smurfs movie.
Yes,
opening up. I've seen the ads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a Smurf now.
You are Papa Smurf.
I'm Papa Smurf. I'm blue, and I wore a blue shirt in honor of the occasion. And yeah, no, it's a trip. Kelly Asbury called me up and said, "You want to play Papa Smurf?" And I didn't know who they were, so I'd heard of the Smurfs.
You didn't have the dolls in the 70s?
No, I didn't have it. No, I had heard of them, but then I certainly got a master class in Smurfdom, and ask me anything.
Yeah, and what a cast! Julia Roberts, Ellie
She's
Kemper.
my love interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a bad
Yeah.
love interest to have.
I had casting approval.
You did.
Yeah.
You said Julia Roberts. I don't know.
I said okay.
And a couple of the stars of 30 Rock, right? Ellie Kemper and
yeah. Wonderful people.
Yeah.
And but I never worked with any of them. You're all alone in front of a microphone by yourself.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, for several hours a day, and then you do it. Then they put it together. Whatever you've done, they make little pencil sketches and put all the voices together and make a little pencil sketch of the movie. And they watch it and they see how the story works. And they bring in another time, and so over and over again. And they keep changing it and molding it, and then you improvise a lot. So it was. I rarely had as much fun as I did doing
Really?
this. It was a blast.
It's not hard to do that when you're just kind of reading lines almost out of context?
If you're sort of in a private lunatic like I am, it's quite a pleasant experience. Yeah, you just go. He says something, and then anything comes into your head. They either use it or they throw it away. Most of which they threw away. Oh. But it's so much fun. It's just freeing. It's like just like. Yeah, skydiving.
Yeah, we'll have to get the DVD for the outtakes on that one.
I would
Sounds like.
love that.
Yeah. Is it the same people who did the first movie? Because that movie did huge box office, right?
It is the same producer, I believe, but I believe everything else about it is different. Meaning that was live action mixed with animation. This is all animated, back to the original form that Peyo did. The artwork was the whole effort was to try to recreate his original style. The look of it is quite beautiful, and it's very much geared to the child in the child and the child in the adult, and it's a very simple tale of being together, of a family of people that are a team that trust each other, support each other, go into the unknown, take care of each other.
Yeah.
Dad comes after he told them not to go out, and they disobeyed him, and he goes looking for them, make sure they're all right. and then there's an adventure and a discovery in the unknown world. But it's really a wonderful film for children.
And I've read that the humor isn't so much of the sort of classic double entendres. In other words, like a one set of jokes for the kids and then another sly winks to the grown-ups. Now, only they are going to get it. It's not like that.
No. This is for the kids.
Yeah.
If you're going to get double entendre adult humor movie, this isn't it.
Go see something else.
This is for the kids. So take your grandkids and your kids and go have a ride. It's a magical ride through an enchanted forest of high adventure with little 1-inch creatures.
A lot of merchandising too with this. Is there a Papa Smurf doll?
Oh yes, there is. As a matter of fact, I had to go to Los Angeles yesterday. I just flew in last night, and I picked up the mail, and there's a box bigger than I am. And I opened the box. I don't know, what the hell is this? I opened it up, and it was a basket, giant basket, filled with every Smurf doll imaginable. And I don't know what to do with them. So, I will get back to you on that.
You throw them out in Times Square or something.
Yeah, it's, but I talk about swag. I'm the Fort Knox of Smurf swag right now.
That sounds like major swag. Let's talk a little bit about Homeland and season 6, just about ending. I take it you've shot them all, and this time you shot in New York City and overseas as well?
Yes, I mainly in New York City was where we filmed, and then I went to Morocco for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I filmed over there all the stuff that happened in Abu Dhabi and the West Bank. This is the first time I've been in New York since 1972 when I came here to go to school, and so it's the first time that I have filmed at home for any length of time, a couple days here or there, a week at most on a film. But every other part of my film or television career has been somewhere else, far away, other than my theater career was always here, obviously. So
Morocco, though, far, far away.
Morocco, far away.
Yeah.
But we have filmed in Morocco twice, Israel twice. Cape Town, South Africa for 7 months in the fourth year, Berlin for 7 months the fifth year. And I hear we're going abroad for the seventh year as well, somewhere, and it'll probably be a mixture of U.S. and somewhere abroad as well.
Now, I've read the showrunner quoted as saying maybe 8 is going to be it.
Well, they have bought 7 and 8. That's what we know right now.
Right.
And I think that's where they're working toward in terms of tying up our tale. But I never know. We'll see what happens. Certainly the, what is it, how does one phrase it, the job that Homeland has in terms of reflecting the modern, not modern, it's far from modern, so the nightmare current event world we're living in. I wish I could say that everything will be rosy and there'll be no need for a reflective show like Homeland 2 years from now. Unfortunately, I don't believe that will be the case. And whether it's Homeland or hopefully many other shows, the need for reflecting, as Shakespeare used to say, holding that mirror up to nature, our nature, human nature, terror, lack of listening, the inability to hear the other side, I think will be with us always. And
is that to say you think the series could go beyond an 8?
It absolutely could. Whether it does or not, I have no idea. That isn't a decision that would be made by the A studio, B network, and most important, above A and B, would be Alex Gonza, the writer, producer, showrunner, who really does the lion's lifting, including our incredible staff of writers. They work as a team like you've never seen, and so we'll see. That's the least of my concern. My concern is to rest for 5 months if I can, and recharge, because it's an exhausting. If you think it's exhausting and scary living in this world that we're all living in, and I'm not saying that it's hard to be in a TV show, isn't it? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the job of it, though, the way for me is we do 14, 16-hour days, and I read what they've written, which was a mirror of what we're living. It's almost written in the morning sometimes. It's not even
it's that current.
It's that current. It's not even prescient anymore. It's like a photograph of this second, particularly this year. And then one marries himself to it. What I mean by that is I find experiences in my life, in the real world, in my imagination. One doesn't have to go very far to marry oneself to the reality to it and the pain of all of that. And it's a very painful world to be living in for all of us right now. And I think, and then you leave work after 12 hours, you open your phone to read the newspaper, and it's 10 times more of that. And then you turn on the news, your program, other shows, and you listen, and it's 100,000 times more of it. So there's no escape. And I actually choose my escape to go to reconnect with reality, because I live in this fictional hell as opposed to the non-fictional hell that I go to sleep in. And to recover and connect with reality. I've done it for the past 2 years. I go to the refugees at the refugee crisis.
I've read about that,
in Lesbos and Serbia and Germany, and I meet these families and I walk with them and talk with them and I listen to their stories, as I did a year ago, as I just did recently with my wife. And I meet these beautiful people and their incredible children and these gorgeous human beings who are coming from such travesty, such war, such horror for years that they've been living in, and they're locked in limbo and they can't find a legal option to come to a safe haven. Everyone shut the doors, including our country is shutting the doors and has shut the doors. There are so many people waiting in limbo. And there's great anxiety that's created by falsehoods and lies. I'll shut up for a minute and let you ask a question.
You never get away from it. And back to Homeland, I know that for part of that, and talk about being immersed in a world, you do talk to people in the intelligence community, right? For research, if you will, for your role. Now, what is that like?
Yeah. We are going again on April 24th. We'll be in Washington for meetings 25, 6, 7, and 8. Those meetings are 10, 12 hours a day. Each person comes in for 2 to 3 hours. We have lunches and dinners into the night. They are the absolute highest people who have been in the past and currently in the intelligence community, and including reporters, Pulitzer Prize writers, et cetera, who comment on it on every side of the fence.
Are there names unmasked, as we've been saying in the news for the past few days? Or, I mean,
can I say who they are?
Is it public? Like could you, if you
wanted to? Oh yes, I have a very I have a relationship with a number of people, particularly Michael Hayden, who I speak to regularly. We are in correspondence. When I just went to the refugee crisis, for example, in my real life, well, first of all, in terms of Homeland, we go meet with them, we check our storyline, we look for real-time information, so I'm not imagining what I'm playing, that you tell me exactly what you have done, what you've been through as head of the CIA with the current president who's going through the president-elect process, and so it's all real. But then we get in, the world changes, an election changes everything. We were initially thinking it would be a female president, and then after the election, the narrative changed, and the writers went back to the table, and everything started to shift. And then we were faced with the fact that there was an intrusion in our process, in the governmental sacredness of our election process, with this Russian influence and interference, which there's no doubt about now. And so that became an essential part of the narrative. And for this season of Homeland, people are saying, calling up regularly. This is the end of our 6th year, and people are saying, this is, we've enjoyed it all the time. Many people say that, and some people are critical, God knows. But we've enjoyed it all the time. But this year particularly, we think is the best year yet. And
shows have their highs and lows, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's and particularly these shows. You need to watch a show like ours like a novel. It's not written and created to be watched one episode. It's not procedural, is what they call those. This is a novel, and if you only watch one piece, you have no idea where it's going. Things are left ambiguous on purpose to be tied up, 7 weeks later. But what happened, because of this false truths, this horseshit phrase called alternative facts, which is another phrase for lies, it came to the front, came to the top of the soup, and what the two most powerful characters of the season, in my humble opinion, and God bless all the writing and all the actors, the beautiful actors that we have, are the characters of false news and truth. These have become the absolute focal point of season 6 of Homeland to me, and to all of us all over the world, far away from Homeland.
Right.
So when you ask about my relationships with folks, oh my God, so many minutes have gone by. And so
don't look at the clock.
Don't look at the clock. But I spoke to Michael Hayden because at the end of season 6, I got on a plane, immediately went back to Lesbos with my wife because I wanted to reconnect with the refugee crisis, see what had happened. Because when I was there a year earlier, they were letting 125,000 people were going through and trying to get to Germany for sanctuary and safety. And then on March 20th, 2016, the European Union shut the doors. They gave $3 billion to Turkey and closed the door. The only option, legal option, they had no legal options before then, and they have less legal options now. So it went from 0 to -0. And the only options they had previously were smugglers. Some get you through to safety, and some get you through to death. It's quite horrifying.
Yeah.
But go ahead. You were going.
No, I was going to say we could do 22 minutes just on politics and the refugee crisis. But since you made me look at the clock, I have to ask you about Broadway. You made a few headlines recently. Here in New York, you went to see Jake Gyllenhaal in the role that you created. He felt your presence there. He did.
Well, I love.
What is it like seeing somebody else in that role?
I love this piece so much. It formed my life. And the key words were not written, ironically, by Steve Sondheim, but James Lapine. And they were the words that are repeated throughout the piece, called connect. connect, George, connect. And if there's a word that I want on my tombstone, would be he tried to connect. And the piece that Steve and James created is so powerful, the structure of it.
Yeah.
Going back in time to our ancestors, that connection, the reason we're all here, it's all connected. You know, this idea of refugees and ancestry and closing doors. We wouldn't be here. This country wouldn't be here without refugees, without our heritage. And the piece reflects it Sunday in the Park. And there was Jake up there with Annalay, and I sat there with my wife, and as the first song began, I just lost it. It all came flooding back. My 31-year-old memory, I'm now 64, of this moment of my life, those words, the music, that experience, and then what those beautiful actors gave to it and brought to it, overwhelmed me. My biggest problem through the show was trying not to let people hear me sobbing. I really was like a tight wreck. I was just trying to hold in my...
Could somebody tell that guy to keep it?
Oh my God, I was terrified that I was just going to start wailing. And then I went backstage and they were waiting. I wanted to say hi, and we just held each other. And then I let it go. I just couldn't hold on.
Did you think he was great?
I thought he was wonderfully great. He gave it everything and more that I could have ever dreamed of. Yeah. He protected something that formed my life, that informed my life, that gave me more than I have words to say. You know, I'm incredibly indebted to not just Jake and Annalay, but Sarah, the director, and the whole company that keep a piece I love alive.
I hope those are the words for which you would be remembered. But you know what other words people, I'm sure they still, when they see you and they meet you, they ask you to say, annoying people like me ask you, say the line.
Okay, I got to look at the time because I will say that line for you. You just give me one of these when it's time to say the line. I promise
I'll give you the.
But I have to get back to something, and it was about connecting and why we're here and why I'm here. And my real purpose at this moment is to be the voice for all of those refugees. There's a million causes out there that matter. There's nothing that isn't important to be attended to. But particularly the refugee crisis at this moment speaks to me because it's my heritage, our country's heritage, it's all of us. And I spoke to Michael Hayden because I wanted to understand why people in this country are so afraid, why politicians are enabling that fear, and how they do it. And I want to speak to that for a moment. And I said, is the vetting process so dangerous? Are we in danger, as everyone's telling us through the elections and everything? And he said, absolutely not. The United States is the gold standard of vetting. Absolutely the gold standard of vetting. And then he put me in touch with the heads of the Middle East in terms of the CIA and all these people, and I took a master course in the vetting process. And I just want to give anyone listening some factual information because these lies affect these families and these children and their lives forever. And some simple facts are, since 1975, 3 million refugees have resettled into the United States. Since 9/11, 900,000. Not a single terrorist incident has taken place by a refugee in this country. They are the safest people in this country. They are vetted in an 18-month to 2-year process. You don't even get in the door as an individual or a family unless the UNHCR says to you that they think you can make it through this 2-year process. So the need for all of us to stop closing doors, and the game here, let me just say one real important thing. The game is, if you're running for office, mayor, alderman, senator, congressman, president of your country, city, state, whatever. The game, as old as the hills, is to gin up that fear. And I create an enemy, and I tell you who that enemy is, and I tell you they're going to hurt you, and if you vote for me, I'll protect you. And that's a lie right now. And the truth is, these are not our enemies, and they are not in danger. And I'm not saying that the vetting process can't always be improved. Everything can always be improved. We can all be improved as individuals and as collective nations. But that vetting process for this country right now is the safest in the world, and not a single refugee has committed a terrorist incident. And let's not forget those facts, because these lives are in waiting, and they're your ancestors' lives, like the ancestors in Sunday in the Park with George that come back to that island, like the ancestors of our lives and everyone listening. They're real, human, beautiful children, lives, families, mothers, daughters, sons, grandparents.
I have two more questions for you.
And I promise I'll say the line when you
Yeah, no, I'm keeping an eye on the clock as well. If you could spend 22 minutes with somebody,
Yeah.
who would it be?
The children that I just visited in the refugee crisis. I'd say I'd spend endless hours with them until I brought them to safety and knew that their hearts were calm and peaceful and unafraid, and that their nightmares were starting to calm down, and that they had some experience of joy for the future.
There's no graceful segue for this, but I have to ask you about The Princess Bride.
Sure.
People love that. 30 years later.
Yeah, I can't believe 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Still talking about it. When people see you in the street, New York, you said you're a New Yorker. New
Yeah.
Yorkers aren't shy.
Yeah.
What do they say to you? Do people come up to you and say,
Yeah, can you do the line?
yeah, do
Yeah,
they?
and I do. And I particularly love, little kids whose parents say, that's the guy, and they look at this gray-bearded guy, and they go, that's not, my parents are crazy. And then I whisper the line in their ear, and they light up, and so I'll do that for you.
Please.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. But can I say, I got 41 seconds. Can I say something else about that movie? When Ted Cruz was running for president, he loves the movie and he quoted every line from the movie, but he never quoted my favorite line, which was, you talk about carpet bombing and revenge and all of these words that we use instead of, political solutions. And my favorite line that Bill Goldman wrote in that movie was when Inigo is standing at the door with the man in black at the end of the movie, and he says to him, I have been in the revenge business so long. Now that it's over, I do not know what to do with the rest of my life.
That's a great line.
I want people to repeat that line. I want the revenge business to be over.
Mandy Patinkin, so great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.